The kitchen shimmered under the gentle glow of dawn streaming through the shutters, casting delicate slats across the sleek marble counter I rested against. My fingers brushed its cool, unyielding surface, tracing the sharp edge as if it could ground me in the quiet. The fridge's soft drone hummed louder than it should, filling the stillness with a mechanical pulse that mirrored the unease bubbling beneath my calm. This house, this expansive, sunlit haven, was the pinnacle of years spent climbing from nothing, a monument to the life I'd carved for myself, and Ethan after the tumult of survival. Stability had been a fleeting dream, chased through tiny flats and restless nights, but now it felt solid, almost stifling in its calm. Back then, it was just Ethan and me, bound by necessity in spaces so cramped the walls seemed to close in. I'd sit on worn sofas, legs tucked under, staring at piles of overdue bills, my breath tight as I rationed the last few pounds. Ethan, barely walking then, would sense it, the fear I tried to mask, and crawl onto my lap, his small arms circling my neck, his voice a quiet chirp. "It'll be okay, Mum." He shouldn't have had to witness that, shouldn't have felt the burden I bore, but he did. Even as a toddler, his hazel eyes, keen, knowing, pierced my facade, and somehow his belief made it real. We survived always, through sheer defiance. His father slipped away before Ethan's first birthday candle dimmed, no argument, no tearful farewell, just a silent departure, a shadow fading into the dark. I'd study Ethan's face as he grew, half expecting to see echoes of that man, the aloofness, the wanderlust. But Ethan was different, warm where his father was distant, grounded where he drifted. We forged something unbreakable in those sparse years, a bond shaped by quiet moments and raw honesty. Our homes were too small for secrets. Thin walls carried every whisper, so we didn't hold them. Ethan asked anything, his curiosity bold, and I answered, no matter how awkward the question. He'd confess his little mischiefs, pinching sweets, a playground scrap, and I'd listen, his trust a lifeline I held tight. He grew tall and sturdy, a presence that commanded spaces, but he never strayed far. While his mates chased chaos, late nights, reckless bets, Ethan stayed near, lounging on our new sofa, tossing out awful puns that drew laughter from me despite myself. I treasured it perhaps too much, that closeness we'd nurtured, a thread that held as he loomed over me now, his voice deeper, his build solid. It's why I'd thrown myself into fitness, jogging at sunrise, the pavement thudding beneath my trainers, lifting weights until my muscles ached. It wasn't just pride, it was strength, a way to feel unyielding after years of bending without breaking. The mirror showed a woman reborn, toned, strong, vibrant, and eyes followed. But it was my own reflection that mattered, seeing resilience where vulnerability once lingered. That strength drove me to claim this house, open, breezy, a world apart from the tight chaos of before. I'd earned it, every stone, every pain, and I refused to feel guilt for it. Ethan deserved it too, a place to stretch after years of scraping by. Then came the spa pool, a splurge that seemed extravagant at first, the cost a figure I'd never have dared years ago. But it was mine, a reward, and when I told Ethan, his smile flashed wide. "Spoil yourself, Mum." I didn't think he'd care much, but I did. That first night, I sank into its bubbling heat, steam swirling around me, my fingers wrinkling as I lingered, a quiet triumph washing over me, proof I'd risen from the shadows. By the weekend, I was eager to share it with him. I dropped hints all day, the calming jets, the way it eased gym-weary muscles, half joking, expecting his usual shrug. He brushed it off, not my scene. But after supper, when I nudged again, he gave in. "All right, let's give it a go." It should have been simple, a carefree soak with my son. But as I slipped into my room to change, unease prickled my skin. I pulled out a navy bikini, its straps slim, fabric snug, and stood before the mirror longer than usual, adjusting it, smoothing my chestnut hair, my reflection sharp, assured. I told myself it was anticipation. The spa, the evening, but my hands trembled slightly as I grabbed 2 drinks, the glass cool against my palms, and stepped outside. The air was warm, heavier than expected, a breeze stirring the cedars as I set the drinks on the pool's rim. Ethan was already there, leaning back against the smooth edge, water bubbling around him, his broad shoulders relaxed, eyes half shut in a rare calm. "Told you it's decent," I said, kicking off my sandals, untying my robe with a tug, letting it fall to the deck. The bikini stark against my skin. His gaze flicked up brief, a moment, then dropped back to the water, but I caught it, a spark, and my pulse jumped, sharp and unexpected. I slipped into the heat, the jets humming low, and sank back, pretending it was nothing. Just a night with my son, though the air felt denser, altered, a shift I couldn't place. The spa pool's jets pulsed against my back as I settled in, steam rising in lazy curls, the warmth seeping into my bones like a long-held breath released. Ethan lounged opposite, his sturdy frame filling his side, water lapping at his chest, his dark hair damp and curling at the tips. The night closed in, the air thick with humidity and the faint chirp of crickets beyond the cedars, a breeze stirring the deck shadows. I stretched my legs, letting the heat dissolve the day's tension, and grinned at him. "See, worth it." He swirled his drink, ice clinking softly, and shot back. "Better than I thought," his voice low, at ease, a rare softness in his features. I leaned back, the jets thrumming steadily, and let my robe slip fully to the deck, the navy bikini stark against my skin, its straps biting faintly into my shoulders. His eyes flicked up, a quick, sharp glance, then dropped back to the water, but the air shifted, a ripple I couldn't dismiss. "Hogging that spot," I teased, scooting closer, the water sloshing gently as I moved. He smirked, tilting his head, found the best one, jets hit perfect. Not budging. His tone was playful, familiar, but there was a weight to it, a hint of something new, and I laughed, rolling my eyes, greedy. "Guess I'll have to take it." The banter flowed easily. A nod to our old evenings, him sprawled on the sofa, stealing my space, me pretending to care. But this felt heavier, the water slowing every move, the steam softening the edges. "Go for it," he said, grinning, and I slid nearer, testing the jets on his side, the hum vibrating through me, easing my lower back, my legs. "Oh, you're right," I said, sinking deeper. "This is mine now." He laughed, a sound that rolled warm over the bubbles. "Told you it's good. Too late, you're stuck." I nudged his arm, playful, but the brush of my skin against his wet, warm, sent a shiver up my arm, sharp and unbidden. We swapped places, water splashing as I settled into his spot, the jets hitting perfectly, a sigh slipping out before I could stop it. "All right, you win," I said, tilting my head back, eyes half closed, the heat unraveling me. He watched me, a faint smirk tugging his lips. "Knew you'd give in." His voice was softer now, and I caught his gaze lingering my shoulders, the curve of my neck, before he looked away, swirling his drink again. The moment stretched, the night's warmth pressing in, and I shifted, stretching my legs, my foot brushing his shin under the water, accidental but electric. A jolt that made me pause. "Shift over," I said, half laughing, scooting closer, and he swatted at me, water splashing over the edge. "Stay in your lane." I grabbed his arm, teasing, tugging him back, and he resisted, laughing, his drink held high to save it. "You'll spill this," he warned. But I lunged again, playful, and before I knew it, we were tussling, water sloshing. His arms slipping from my grip, my hands catching his shoulders, slick and firm. "All right, truce," he said, breathless. And I smirked, victorious, sliding closer, too close, and sank onto his lap without thinking, the laughter dying sharp in my throat. The air stilled, the jets hum loud in the silence as I felt him, his thighs solid beneath me. A firmness pressing against me through the thin fabric of our suits, his body tensing under my weight. My heart faltered, a wild thud in my ears. But I didn't move, couldn't, the heat of him seeping through the water through me. His hands hovered near my hips, not touching, his breath catching, and I told myself it was nothing. The pool, the closeness, the steam. But the shift was stark, raw, heavy. "Sorry," he said, voice slow, unsteady, his face flushing red, eyes darting away. "I didn't mean—" I cut him off, too quick. "It's fine, Ethan, chill, just the jets." My tone aimed for casual, but it wavered, betraying me. He didn't relax, his shoulders stayed stiff. His gaze fixed on the water, cheeks burning, and I felt it too. A flicker of guilt, cold and sharp. But beneath it, something else, excitement, a thrill I hadn't anticipated, coiling tight in my chest. I liked it the way he looked, flustered, uncertain, like I held something over him. A power I hadn't known I wanted. "Guess I should have let you keep the spot," I said, breaking the silence, sliding off his lap, water rippling as I moved, trying to lighten it. But my voice was too soft, too shaky. He laughed, sharp and nervous. "Yeah, maybe," and climbed out, muttering about another drink. His frame vanishing inside, leaving me alone, skin buzzing, breath uneven. I leaned back, the jets pounding my back, and stared at the steam curling into the night, my mind replaying it, the press of him, the wideness of his eyes, the heat that wasn't just the water. It was nothing, I told myself. Just a moment, heat and proximity. But the lie felt fragile, crumbling as I sank deeper. The thrill pulsing through me, alive and persistent. A whisper I couldn't silence, wondering what it meant, what I wanted it to mean. The spa pool's steam lingered in my mind as I slipped into bed that night. The quilt cool against my flushed skin. Ethan's shaky, sorry, echoing in my ears. A sound I couldn't shake. I'd brushed it off, told myself it was the heat, the water, a fleeting nothing. But my pulse thrummed wild under the sheets, replaying the press of him beneath me, the firmness I'd felt, the way his eyes widened, nervous and unguarded. Sleep dodged me, the lake house creaking in the dark, the hum of the fridge downstairs a faint pulse matching the one in my chest. Tom's text, "Back soon," glowed unread on my phone, a cold tether to a life that felt distant, paling against the warmth Ethan had stirred. A heat I shouldn't crave, but did. Morning broke soft and gray, clouds smudging the sky beyond the cedars, and I padded downstairs barefoot, the hardwood chilled under my soles. Ethan was already in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, coffee steaming in his mug, his dark hair mussed, gym shorts slung low. "Hey," he said, voice quiet, eyes flicking to me quick, cautious, then back to his drink. "Hey," I echoed, grabbing a cup, my hands steadying on the warm ceramic, the memory of last night a silent thread between us. "Sleep all right?" I asked, casual, stirring sugar I didn't need, and he shrugged. "Yeah, you?" His tone was light, but his gaze lingered, a beat too long, and my stomach flipped, sharp and unbidden. Breakfast blurred, Sarah's voice cutting through, planning a market trip, the clatter of plates, and I played along, laughing at her quips. But Ethan's presence tugged at me. He sat across the table, knees brushing mine once under the wood, accidental but electric. A jolt that made me spill my coffee, the dark splash staining my napkin. "Still clumsy," Sarah teased, oblivious, and he smirked, faint, passing me a cloth, his fingers grazing mine, warm and rough. a spark that made my breath hitch. I dabbed at the mess, cheeks burning, his eyes catching mine steady, a glint of something new, and I turned away, guilt prickling, but the thrill pulsed stronger, a whisper I couldn't hush. Days drifted into a quiet rhythm, Sarah bustling through chores, me running at dawn, Ethan lifting weights in the shed. But the air between us thickened, heavy with what we didn't say. I'd catch him watching, his gaze lingering on my legs as I stretched post-run, my tank top clinging damp to my skin, or flicking to my neck when I tied my hair up, quick but deliberate. It started small, innocent, a game I didn't mean to play. I swapped joggers for leggings, their fabric hugging my curves, chose low-cut tops that bared my collarbone, moved slower when I knew he was near. I'd bend to grab a plate, stretching longer, feel his eyes trace me, and smile to myself, a rush coiling tight in my core. He didn't call it out, not at first, but I saw it, the way his jaw tightened, his hands flexing as he passed me in the hall, closer than needed, his arm brushing my side, warm through my shirt. "Careful, Mum," he said one afternoon, smirking as I leaned over the counter, leggings taut, grabbing a fork. "You're gonna drop something." I straightened, rolling my eyes. "After all these years, you'd think you'd be used to me." His grin faltered, eyes dipping quick to my chest, then away. "Doesn't mean I'm blind." The words landed heavy, casual but sharp, and I froze, heat flooding my face, turning to hide the flush, the thrill sparking brighter, dangerous, and alive. That night, the spa pool called again, no prompting this time. Ethan grabbed drinks and towels before I could ask, a silent agreement, and I chose a coral bikini, smaller, bolder, its straps thin, fabric clinging tight. Outside, the air hung warm, the sky bruising violet, and I sank in, the jets humming low, steam curling around me. He stepped in, eyes flicking down, a heartbeat enough, and handed me my drink. "Blimey, Mum, you're spilling out of that." His tone teased, but his cheeks flushed, and I laughed, sinking deeper. "Oh, hush, want to scar you." He smirked, "More scarring for you, trust me." And the words hung, heavier than the steam, a pulse flickering between us. I leaned back, the jet soothing my back, and teased, "Gonna hog that spot again." He shook his head, firm, "No chance, not after last time." I tilted my head, pressing, "What happened last time?" His face reddened, eyes darting away. "You know, things got lively." I laughed, too loud, flattered, and he flushed deeper, muttering, "Yeah, well," before climbing out, water streaming down his frame, his wet shorts clinging, my gaze trailing lower than it should have, a thrill surging as he vanished inside. Alone, I sank into the heat, the moment replaying his tension. My tease, a game I'd started, unsure where it led, unwilling to stop. The spa pool night left a hum in my veins, Ethan's flushed retreat replaying, his wet shorts clinging, the nervous edge in his, "Yeah, well," spark I couldn't douse. I woke the next morning, sunlight spilling through the shutters, the quilt twisted from restless dreams, my skin still warm with the memory of his gaze, quick and unguarded. Downstairs, Sarah bustled in the kitchen, her chatter a distant buzz as I poured coffee, my hands steadying on the mug. But Ethan's absence lingered, a quiet pull I felt even with him out on errands. Tom's text, "Home tomorrow," flashed on my phone, a cold jolt I ignored, his shadow fading against the heat Ethan stirred, a heat I shouldn't chase but couldn't resist. Days slipped by, the house a swirl of routine, Sarah's market runs, my dawn jogs, Ethan's weights clanking in the shed. But the air between us thickened, a silent current weaving through every glance. I leaned into it, subtle at first. Leggings swapped for shorts that hugged my thighs, tank tops traded for cropped tees, the fabric taut across my chest, no bra beneath. I'd stretch longer after runs, catching his eyes linger on my legs or bend to grab a dish, slow and deliberate, feeling his gaze trace my spine. He didn't call it out, but he mirrored it, his hands brushing my arm, reaching for a glass, his voice low and teasing, "Watch it, Mum." As I passed too close in the hall, a warmth that prickled my skin. Winter crept in, the air crisp beyond the windows. Baubles glinting on a tree Sarah insisted we decorate together. The tension shifted, jokes grew sharper, glances held longer, a charge pulsing beneath our banter. "Careful, Mum," he said one night, smirking as I leaned over the sofa in a cropped jumper, shorts riding high. "You're gonna make a mess." I straightened, tossing back. "You've survived worse." But his eyes dipped quick, bold to my chest. "Doesn't mean I don't see it." And I turned away, heat flooding my face, the thrill coiling tighter, a game neither of us named. Then came the steam room, a treat I'd ordered for myself, a sleek oak box delivered post-holidays, a reward for years of grit. Ethan offered to assemble it, his hands deft with tools, and I lingered in the doorway, leaning against the frame in a crop top and shorts, watching sweat bead on his bare shoulders as he tightened bolts. "Oh, Mr. Handyman," I teased, trailing a finger down his arm, warm and firm under my touch. "How will I repay you?" He laughed, brushing it off. "Keep dreaming." But his eyes flicked to my legs. A quick graze before he turned back, the air sparking with something unspoken, something alive. The next day it stood ready, oak-scented and warm, and I nudged him after lunch. "You built it, come try it with me." He hesitated, rubbing his neck, maybe, but I pressed. "Come on, you earned it," and he caved, a grin breaking through. I chose shorts and a tank top, the fabric thin, clinging damp to my skin post-run, no bra beneath, and stepped in, the heat wrapping me like a cloak. Ethan followed, gym shorts low on his hips, no shirt, his chest broad and tan, sweat already beading as he sank onto the bench beside me, our thighs brushing in the tight space. A jolt that made my breath catch. The air thickened, oak and steam swirling around us, the heat sinking deep into my muscles, loosening me as I leaned back, eyes half closed. "You did well," I said, stretching my arms, the tank top riding up, bearing my midriff, and he grinned, "Glad you think so." His voice was low, warm, and I shifted, teasing. "This spot's perfect, jets in the pool, heat here. You're spoiling me." He laughed, "Someone's gotta." And I nudged him, playful, my knee pressing to his, the damp warmth of his skin igniting me, a shiver racing up my spine despite the heat. "Could use help with a problem, though," he said, smirking, leaning closer, his shoulder brushing mine, and I blinked, caught off guard. "What kind?" He waved it off, grinning, joking. But I pressed. "Oh, thought our mate was back," nodding at his shorts, teasing, bold. His eyes widened, then dipped quick, sharp to my chest, the tank top clinging, nipples faint through the fabric. And he shot back. "You're not exactly hiding anything either." I laughed, leaning forward, natural after a run, and he grinned. But the air shifted, heavy, charged, our breaths sinking in the steam. The timer buzzed, shattering the haze, and he stood first, brushing against me as he stepped out, his arm warm, slick with sweat. A spark that lingered as I followed, my skin buzzing, the oak scent clinging to us both. "Maybe I'll join your next jog," he said, grinning over his shoulder, and I smiled. "I'd like that." The words heavier than I meant. A promise threading through the heat, a line I danced closer to, unsure if I'd step back. The steam room's oak heat clung to me as I climbed into bed that night. The quilt cool against my flushed skin, Ethan's grin. "Maybe I'll join your next jog," echoing in my mind. A thread I couldn't unravel. His bare chest, sweat slick in the steam, the brush of his thigh against mine, replayed in the dark. My pulse a restless thud under the sheets. Sleep slipped away, the house creaking in the stillness. Tom's latest text, "Home tomorrow." A cold whisper I ignored, his absence a void Ethan's warmth filled, a warmth I shouldn't crave but couldn't deny. I tossed, restless, the memory of his eyes, hazel, bold, tracing me, igniting a thrill I couldn't hush. Morning dawned gray, clouds pressing low beyond the cedars, and I padded downstairs barefoot, the hardwood chilled under my soles. Ethan stood in the kitchen, coffee brewing, his gym shorts low. A tea stretched across his broad shoulders, his dark hair mussed from sleep. "Hey," he said, voice soft, eyes flicking to me quick, warm, then back to the pot. "Hey," I echoed, grabbing a mug, my fingers brushing his as he passed the cream, a spark that made my breath catch. "Jog today?" he asked, casual, sipping his coffee, and I nodded. "If you're up for it," smiling too quick, the air humming with last night's heat. Breakfast blurred, Sarah's chatter about a craft fair, the clink of spoons, and I played along. But Ethan's presence tugged at me. He sat across, his knee nudging mine under the table, a fleeting touch that sent heat racing up my leg, and I laughed too loud at Sarah's quip, spilling my mug, the dark splash staining my napkin. "Still a mess," she teased, oblivious, and he smirked, passing a cloth, his fingers grazing mine, warm and rough, a jolt that flushed my cheeks. I dabbed at it, his gaze lingering steady, a glint of something sharp, and I turned away, guilt prickling, the thrill pulsing brighter. Days stretched taut, a quiet dance of closeness. Sarah bustling through chores, me jogging at dawn, Ethan lifting weights. But the game deepened. I wore cropped tees, shorts hugging my thighs, moved slower when he was near, catching his eyes trace my spine as I bent for a dish, his breath hitching when I stretched, tank top riding up. He leaned into his hand brushing my hip in the hall, his voice low, careful, mum, as I passed close, a warmth that prickled my skin. "Gonna trip someone," he teased one afternoon, smirking as I leaned over the counter, shorts tight, and I tossed back, "You've dodged worse." But his eyes dipped bold, quick to my chest, "Not always," and I turned, heat flooding me, the thrill coiling tight. That evening, Tom's text buzzed. "Landing tonight." A cold knot I shoved aside, the house settling into dusk, Sarah napping upstairs. I slipped into the kitchen, rinsing dishes from dinner, my tank top damp from the jog. Shorts clinging to my thighs, no bra beneath, the fabric thin against my skin. Ethan came up behind, silent, his hand brushing my lower back as he reached for a glass. A quick, deliberate press, warm through my shirt. And I froze, heat rushing to my face, the sponge slipping in my grip. "Your headlights are on," he said, nodding at my chest, smirking, his voice low, teasing, and I turned, catching his gaze. "Oh, you noticed." My tone aimed for light, but it trembled, betraying me. He hesitated, glass in hand, eyes searching mine, hazel, uncertain, and the air thickened, the hum of the fridge loud in the silence. "Hard not to," he said, casual but not, stepping closer, his breath a faint rhythm between us. My stomach flipped, a thrill surging, and I leaned back, the counter cool against my spine. "What's okay to say?" he asked, voice softer, testing, a question that hung heavy. I swallowed, the room shrinking, his nearness a pull I couldn't dodge. "Words don't matter," I said, meeting his eyes. "Say what you want. If it's too much, we'll call it a jest." Relief flickered in his gaze, but tension lingered, his hands flexing like he ached to move. "What about touching?" I pressed, bold, the words slipping out, my pulse hammering. He paused, swallowing hard. "I don't know," his voice cracking faintly, and I stepped closer, the counter digging into my back. "I'm fine with hands on my hips if I can do the same." He laughed, sharp and nervous, but nodded, "Deal," and the air sparked, a line blurring we couldn't unsee. I turned back to the sink, pretending calm, but my skin buzzed, his eyes still on me. And later, loading the dishwasher, his hand brushed my hip again. Quick, deliberate, a spark that made me straighten, bumping into him, his chest warm, solid behind me. "Someone's daring," I said, voice low, turning to face him wide-eyed, and he didn't back away, pressing just enough for me to feel him close real. "You said it's okay," he shot back, face red, eyes steady, and I smirked. "It is," stepping aside, the heat lingering as he left for mates, leaving me breathless, the thrill pulsing wild. Tom's plane was landing soon, a storm brewing. But for now, it was just us, the kitchen a quiet battlefield of what we dared, a game I couldn't stop playing. The kitchen's heat lingered as I climbed the stairs, Ethan's hand on my hip, a quick, warm press, burning in my memory. His "you said it's okay" echoing soft and bold. I sank onto the bed, the quilt cool against my flushed skin, my tank top clinging damp from the sink, shorts tight on my thighs. Tom's text, landed, home soon, glowed on my phone, a cold weight I couldn't face, his shadow creeping closer, but Ethan's presence drowned it, his smirk, his nearness, a thrill I shouldn't chase but couldn't let go. Sleep dodged me, the house creaking in the dark, my pulse a restless hum as I replayed the night. The line we'd blurred, a game I'd pushed too far. Sarah's snores drifted faint from down the hall, the stillness thick with humidity, and I slipped downstairs barefoot, the hardwood chilled under my soles, my robe loose over the tank top and shorts. The living room glowed dim, a lamp casting soft shadows, and I sank onto the sofa, legs stretched out, needing air, needing calm. Footsteps creaked behind, slow, steady, and I turned, heart lurching as Ethan stepped in, Jim shorts low. A T stretched across his chest, his dark hair mussed, eyes catching mine in the faint light. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, voice low, warm, settling beside me, his thigh brushing mine, a spark that made my breath catch. "Yeah," I murmured, shifting closer, the sofa creaking under us, his warmth seeping through the thin space between. "You," he shrugged, "too much on my mind." His gaze flicking to me quick, sharp, then away, the kitchen still pulsing between us. I stretched my legs across his lap, casual habit from years past, but the air shifted heavier, his hand hovering near my ankle, fingers flexing like he ached to touch. "Tough day?" I teased, voice soft, and he smirked. "You could say that," his eyes tracing my legs, lingering on the bare skin where my shorts rode up, a thrill coiling tight in my chest. Silence stretched, the TV flickering muted across the room, and he moved, slow, deliberate, his hand resting light on my ankle, tracing lazy circles with his thumb, warm and rough against my smoothness. My breath hitched, the touch igniting me, but I didn't pull away, couldn't, the heat of him sinking deeper, stirring a hunger I'd buried. "Ethan," I started, a whisper, but he looked up, eyes dark, raw. "I don't get it," he said, voice quiet, shaky. Us, it's messing with me." His hand stilled, gripping my ankle, steadying himself, and my stomach twisted, the truth pressing close. I pulled my legs back, sitting up to face him, the sofa shifting under me, our knees brushing, close, too close. "You're not alone," I admitted, my voice loud in the hush. "I've been trying to make sense of it too." He met my gaze, something unguarded flickering there. "It's not just me, right? I'm not imagining it." His words hung heavy, and I shook my head. "No, you're not." The confession slipping out, raw, real, a line I couldn't uncross. The room shrank, the air thick with what we dared to say. His hands flexing on his knees, my skin buzzing where he'd touched, a pull I couldn't dodge. "I feel like I'm losing it," he said, dragging a hand through his hair. "Every time you're near, I can't stop thinking about you." His voice cracked, soft, and my breath caught, heat flooding me, the words I'd felt but never voiced. "It's the same for me," I said, trembling. "It scares me, but it makes me feel alive." The truth landed, stark, and he leaned back, head falling against the sofa, God, Mum, exhaling sharp, hands sliding down his face, then looking at me, eyes searching permission, fear, want. I leaned closer, my hand resting on his arm, warm, firm. "We'll keep it light," I said, soft. "No pressure, just this. If it's too much, we stop." He nodded, relief flickering. But the tension lingered, his eyes dark, conflicted, mirroring mine. "Yeah," he murmured, staring at the TV, unseeing. "It feels good." The words hung, a quiet pact, and I shifted, my legs brushing his again, his hand sliding back to my ankle, tracing slow, steady circles, a spark reigniting. The night pulsed around us, crickets beyond the window, the lamp's glow soft, and I leaned into him, shoulder to his, the warmth of him grounding me. A game we'd agreed to play, teetering on an edge I couldn't step back from. Then headlights swept the drive, sharp, sudden. Tom's car, gravel crunching loud, and my heart stopped, Ethan's hand freezing on my skin. "Shit," I hissed, pulling back, panic surging as the engine cut off, footsteps thudding toward the door. Ethan stood, eyes wide. "He's early," voice low, and I scrambled, robes slipping as I straightened, the thrill shattering into fear. Tom's key turning in the lock, a storm breaking in, leaving us exposed, teetering on a cliff we couldn't climb down from. The living room froze as Tom's key scraped the lock, his footsteps thudding heavy on the porch, Ethan's hand slipping from my ankle. A cold jolt slicing through the heat we'd woven. "He's early," Ethan hissed, voice low, eyes wide with panic. And I scrambled up, robes slipping open, tank top clinging damp to my skin, my pulse hammering wild as the door creaked ajar. Tom stepped in tall, rumpled from the flight, his coat slung over his arm, eyes narrowing at the dim glow. "Clara," he called, voice rough, tired, scanning the room, landing on us, me on the sofa. Ethan by the lamp, too close, too still. "Late night?" he asked, a faint edge cutting through, and I forced a smile. "Couldn't sleep," my voice thin, trembling. Ethan nodded, casual, just catching up. But his hands flexed, betraying him, and Tom grunted, dropping his bag, "Long trip. Bed sounds good." His gaze lingered, a beat too long. Then he trudged upstairs, the creak of his steps fading, leaving me breathless, Ethan's eyes meeting mine, dark, tense, a silent thread holding us. "Close call," he murmured, stepping back, and I nodded, too close, the thrill and fear tangling tight, his warmth still pulsing where he'd touched. A pull I couldn't shake as I retreated to my room. The night fractured, unsteady. Tom's return cast a shadow, morning brought his voice, clipped over coffee, Sarah's chatter a buffer as I played normal, but Ethan's presence simmered beneath. He stayed near, his knee brushing mine at breakfast, a quick graze of his hand passing a mug, each touch a spark I couldn't dodge. "Rough night?" Tom asked, eyeing me over his cup, and I shrugged, restless, avoiding his gaze, the guilt sharp, the thrill sharper. Ethan smirked faintly, silent, but his eyes flicked to me bold, knowing, and I turned away, heat prickling my skin, Tom's shadow a cold weight I couldn't lift. Days stretched taut, Tom settling into routines, Sarah oblivious, me caught between, but the tension with Ethan deepened, a quiet rebellion in stolen moments. A hand on my hip in the hall, his breath warm as he leaned close, careful, teasing low, my shorts riding high, his touch lingering, igniting me. "Your trouble," I whispered, smirking, and he grinned. "You started it," the air humming, a game we couldn't quit. Night brought Tom's snores beside me, his arm heavy, a stranger's weight, and I'd lie awake, Ethan's warmth a ghost against the cold, my skin aching for what I shouldn't want. One night, Sarah out late, Tom asleep, the house sank into a heavy hush, and I slipped downstairs, restless, the hardwood cool under my bare feet, robe loose over my tank top and shorts. The living room was dark, the TV off, and I padded to the kitchen, needing water, needing air. Ethan emerged from the shadows, gym shorts low, no shirt, his chest broad, tan in the faint moonlight, and stopped, eyes locking on mine, a spark flaring. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, voice low, stepping closer, and I shook my head. "You neither." He smirked. "Too much noise up here," tapping his temple, the space shrinking, his scent, sweat, oak flooding me. "Come upstairs," I whispered, bold, reckless, turning before he could answer, my pulse racing as I climbed, his steps soft behind, a shadow trailing me to my room. The door clicked shut, moonlight spilling silver through the shutters, and I faced him, robe slipping open, tank top thin against my skin. "Ethan," I started, voice trembling, but he closed the gap, his hand brushing my cheek, warm, steady. "I can't stop this," he murmured, eyes dark, raw, and our lips met, slow, tentative, tasting of night and him. Then deep, his mouth opening to mine, a quiet groan as his tongue grazed mine, igniting me. I pressed into him, hands sliding to his chest, fingers tracing the firm planes, warm under my touch, pulling him closer as his arms wrapped me, pressing me against the door. Its cool would a shock to my back. His chest brushed mine, the friction sparking through the thin fabric, and I sighed, soft, my fingers digging into his shoulders, nails grazing as he kissed me deeper, lips trailing to my neck, warm and slow, sucking gently at the pulse point, a shiver racing through me. "You're all I think about," he whispered, breath hot, his hands sliding to my hips, warm through the shorts, pulling me tighter, a spark flaring low. The room blurred, moonlight on the quilt, the creak of the floor, and he tugged my tank top up, slow, deliberate, baring my midriff, his fingers brushing my skin, rough, electric. I lifted my arms, letting it slip off, and his gaze roved, dark, reverent, his breath hitching as he kissed my collarbone, soft, warm, a quiet hum against me. My hands roamed his back, nails trailing faint lines, and he pressed closer, his shorts brushing my thighs, the heat of him alive, a pull I couldn't resist. Tom's snores a distant echo, the night hours, teetering on a breaking point we couldn't undo. The door pressed cool against my back as Ethan's lips lingered on my collarbone, his breath warm, a quiet hum vibrating through me, unraveling the last threads of restraint. My tank top lay crumpled on the floor, the moonlight spilling silver across my bare skin, his hands on my hips, rough, steady, pulling me tight against him. The heat of his chest searing through the thin space between. "I can't stop this," he'd whispered, voice raw, and I hadn't wanted him to. My hands roaming his back, nails trailing faint lines over taut muscle. His scent, oak, sweat, him flooding me, drowning Tom's snores echoing faint from down the hall. The room pulsed with us, a refuge teetering on collapse, and I surrendered, reckless, alive. "Ethan," I murmured, voice trembling, tugging at his shorts, my fingers fumbling the waistband, needing him closer, needing more. He stepped back, eyes dark, searching mine, a silent question, and I nodded, breathless, pulling him back as he slid them off, the fabric rustling to the floor, leaving him bare, warm, solid against me. His hands moved to my shorts, hooking the hem, peeling them down slow with my panties, the air cool against my thighs as I stepped free, exposed, trembling under his gaze. He paused, breath hitching. "You're sure?" Voice low, ragged, and I pressed into him, legs parting. "Yes," a whisper, my hands gripping his shoulders, nails digging in, pulling him to the bed. The mattress dipped as we sank down, quilt bunching beneath me, his weight settling over me, warm and steady, his chest brushing mine, the friction igniting a flush across my skin. Our lips crashed deep, hungry, his mouth opening to mine, tasting of night and want, his tongue grazing mine, slow and firm. A quiet moan slipping from me as I arched, pressing closer. His hands slid to my hips, rough palms gripping me, guiding me as he pressed in slow, deliberate, a low groan escaping him, warm and full against me, my breath catching sharp at the stretch, a spark coiling tight in my core. "Clara," he panted, voice breaking, forehead resting on mine, and I clung to him, legs wrapping his hips, urging him deeper. The bed creaked, a steady rhythm building as he moved, gentle at first, his breath hot on my neck, lips kissing the hollow of my throat, then firmer, deeper. Each thrust a pulse that stoked the fire within me. My hands roamed his back, nails scraping faint trails, sweat beating between us as I rocked against him. The friction of his chest on mine sparking through me, nipples tight against his skin. "God, you feel?" he groaned low, raw, his lips trailing to my ear, sucking gently, the heat of his breath a shiver down my spine. And I gasped. "Don't stop," voice trembling, my hands gripping his hair, thick and curling, tugging as the tension built, sharp and wild. Moonlight danced over us, silver streaks on his shoulders, the quilt a tangled mess as our rhythm quickened, his hands sliding to my thighs, lifting me closer, pressing deeper, the creak of the bed loud in the hush, the lake's murmur a faint echo beyond. His lips found mine again, messy, desperate, his tongue mirroring the pace, a dance that made my head spin, the heat of him overwhelming, alive against me.